We're going to start with a question today. What makes a bad movie a bad movie? Is it the obvious low budget, even though some big budget films can be pretty bad? Maybe it's the laughable dialogue or the amateurish acting or the cheapo special effects. Now, maybe it's a combination of all those things, but many film fans and film collectors seem to love bad movies, and there are some disc labels that even seem to specialize in those types of films. I do appreciate some bad movies depending on the nostalgia factor and the genre. And all that brings us to today's episode. This is the Kazdoy Closet. I'm Kazdoy. That's my closet full of all the stuff that I love. And today, 2 examples of 50s monster movies that were omnipresent in drive-in theaters and on old black and white TVs back in the day. Let's check them out. The first film we're looking at today is the giant Gila monster from 1959, a brisk 74 minutes long in beautiful black and white. This one's about a giant lizard that's terrorizing a small rural Texas community. That's the plot. That's about all you need to know, really. Now, as I was watching this, a few things stood out immediately. Most of all, these are the oldest teenagers I've ever seen in my life. They're acting, talking, dressing like teenagers. They're driving around in hot rods, and they got to be in their mid-30s at this point. There's also a sheriff who seems totally incapable of doing anything without getting some help from the main teenager who's named Chase in the film. Now, out of the 5 adults in this film, 2 of them are drunk drivers, one of them for comic effect, and the other one's kind of an idol, so I thought that was kind of odd too. And there's some really bad, generic rock and roll music that's really twangy in this film, and including a Chase's song when he's all alone and kind of singing to himself, and it's some sort of song like, "My baby rocks when she walks, and she swings when she sings," and just repeat that over and over again, and it's just pretty awful. But the cringiest moment is when Chase is serenading this little girl who has leg braces, I'm going to assume from polio at the time, and he's singing to her this very religious song while she's walking to him haltingly for the first time using her leg braces that he helped to pay for. It's really sentimental and really weepy and pretty cringy. And I remember growing up, they had what they call them poster children of kids with leg braces because they suffered from polio. And I remember getting polio vaccine. They would put it into a sugar cube and give the sugar cube to the kids as the polio vaccine. But aside from that, as often happens with these types of films, the backstory is very interesting, sometimes more interesting than the film itself. The executive producer here was named Gordon McLendon. He was a very wealthy man and extremely conservative. He even ran for office, but was too right-wing and conservative for most people and never got elected. But he actually popularized the top 40 radio format and introduced an all-news format on radio, which is interesting. He got into the movie business because he thought it would be fun, and he made a point of reminding people that all his films were profitable. The director of Giant Gila Monster was Ray Kellogg, who actually worked with John Ford on many films, and he worked himself on several well-known films in a different capacity, other than director, of course. And that was rather surprising, I thought. The writer was Jay Sims, who's written many episodes of classic TV shows. But what we really want to know is, how does the monster look? Well, the Gila monster, it's just a real lizard. Interesting looking lizard, but it's just a real lizard. And they put him in miniature sets and add some sound effects when he's walking through the woods and stuff like that. The sets match the real sets pretty well, actually, and they shoot the lizard in the dark all the time, so it doesn't really look that bad. When the lizard's tongue sticks out, it always makes this, they add a scratchy sandpaper type noise. I'm not sure why they did that, but this part of the episode is usually when I give my rating for this film and tell you where you can see it. But wait, there's more. because there is a second film included here. And that film is, as you can see in the bottom here, The Killer Shrews. That's from 1959 as well. A brisker 69 minutes long, also in beautiful black and white. This is about a small group of people on an isolated island who are terrorized by these overgrown, hungry shrews. Same executive producer, same writer, same director. One of the actors in here is Ken Curtis. I'm sure he's best known as playing Festus on the Gunsmoke series. I always think of him as in a memorable role in The Searchers, and that's a John Ford film, of course, and he was actually John Ford's son-in-law. Now, there are a couple of unfortunate racial stereotypes in this film, and it's on a much smaller scale, I thought, than the giant Gila monster, because most of it takes place in one house, and it gets kind of boring, that setting. And according to the booklet included here, this is the film that just will not die. A band came along many years later called The Killer Shrews. Also many years later, there was a sequel made, I'm sure tongue-in-cheek, and also a play based on this film that I'm sure was also tongue-in-cheek. But once again, we want to know, what do the shrews look like? Well, they're dogs. They're like medium-sized dogs with something draped over them. Looks like a seaweed or dreadlocks or something draped on them. And sometimes they show them with these giant fangs. I don't know how they put those fangs on these dogs. And in the close-ups in this sequence at the end, they're actually like, their heads are like puppets that show up. When they show the dogs running, mostly it's in the dark, and it looks pretty good. They're running around looking like dogs, moving fast, and better than I expected, actually. My rating for both of these films, I'm going to give them both 2.5 lizards out of 5. And now, keep in mind, I'm comparing those to other films like this, other 50s creature features, placing these two right in the middle. I've seen some worse ones. I've seen some better ones. There's no like Red Scare or radiation themes or Cold War themes in these two films. They're just monster films, basically. Now, are they so bad they're good? Well, it depends. A lot of the enjoyment watching these is, of course, to make fun of them, but I often watch them and think, what are these actors thinking? How are they taking this seriously? And of course, there's the nostalgia factor as well. So what's on this disc? Well, it's 2 discs actually, of the 2 films, 1 disc for each film. This is on the Film Masters label. Some of the people that used to be involved with the Film Detective label. There's a booklet. It's about 20-25 pages long. And there's an error in the booklet. It's complete, but there's a paging error. And I was in the publishing business on books and magazines a long time ago. And errors are part of the game. So I'm going to give them a pass on this. Plus, I think it's their very first release. The films come in 2 formats. How it looked theatrically and how they looked on TV. So I thought that was kind of a fun thing to do. There are audio commentaries for both films, which I did not listen to. There's an audio interview with the actor who plays Chase in the giant Gila monster, but that is the quality of that is so bad that I barely even listened to that one. There's a short documentary about the director, Ray Kellogg's, about 16 minutes long. That was good. And there's some radio spots and some trailers. So where can you see these films? Well, the giant Gila monster right now is streaming on Freevee and on Prime. I'm going to guess on YouTube as well. And Killer Shrews, also Freevee, Prime, MGM Plus, and I'm going to guess also on YouTube. So feel free to leave a comment or suggestion down below. By the way, this is what the Killer Shrew looks like. That's the dog. How they got those fangs on that dog, I don't know, because I don't think my dog would ever go for that. Unless that's one of the puppets. Probably is, actually. Leave a comment down below. Do you have a favorite bad movie? And do you like it or not? I guess you do if it's your favorite, right? I would like to thank the following people who left comments since our last episode. Let me grab my note right here. Chuck, Robbie, Chris, Danica, Sidekick Dusty, and this is a tough one, Panay Sulander, I'm going to guess. Thank you for taking the time to leave a comment on various episodes since our last episode. Feel free to leave a thumbs up, but don't leave a thumbs down. Subscribe would be great. share this with your friends and neighbors. We are very close to our next goal of 750 subscribers. We're like 10 away, I think. So thank you so much for subscribing, and welcome to our newest subscribers: Socorro, Hunter, Jonathan, Teo, Jennifer, PJ, Masamama, and again, Pinaya Swander. I'm not sure how you say that. And thank you so much for subscribing. Subscribing is free. Also free is we're on Letterboxd, the Letterboxd app, under the Kazdoy Closet. There's a link down below in the story notes, in the show notes rather, and that's where we leave brief written reviews of other things we're watching that we usually don't talk about on this channel. Most recently, the films May December and Godzilla -1, which we saw in IMAX. So thank you so much. Hope you liked this episode. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time.